Welcome into another edition of Gas. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
You were playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of Tight Pants Society.
No fucking play is that a gimme, right?
Well. The baseball season has started, and I don't know if that's exactly where we're going to begin on today's edition of Gas. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik, and 2-7 is written all over your face, my friend. Good morning.
That's hilarious. You know, that Open, I start to watch that Open every week and pick up new things from it, right? That bandana that I used to wear when I had long hair, my wife and my daughters, if they see that fucking bandana on my head, it's like a clown show. They all hate it. They all hated it the whole time. So, Cody, at some point, I got to have that out of the Open because I don't mind my headband, Gresh, but they don't like it. Yeah, I mean, the 2-7 Red Sox, honestly, I'm 47 years old, and you joke around, but don't joke around when you do the wee roller coaster thing with the Red Sox. You're actually serious because you don't get on the roller coaster. So this 2-7 doesn't affect you emotionally. And I'm kind of gotten to that point, if I'm being honest with you. We could go on. And I know the Red Sox probably one of our topics, but we're not going to spend the dollars. You kept saying middle of the order bat. And among other things, that is the glaring hole.
That and the pressure that they're putting on their defense game in and game out because they're just not great offensively. If you remember when the Red Sox made the playoffs last year on this here very program, I said it's the worst thing that could happen to all of us because now Craig Breslow and John Henry and crew are now more entrenched in the way we do things. We don't have to go spend money crazy in free agency. And that's exactly what this team is. Now, they did address some pitching in free agency. There's no doubt. And they kind of had to, unless they wanted to just say, well, Peyton Tolle is automatically in the rotation. And I don't think they wanted to do that, nor should they have done that, quite honestly. But yeah, this is going to be the how long can we win enough to keep the fans happy while staying under the tax and not really worrying about putting another championship ring on the finger. And if you look at what's going on in Liverpool, they got issues over there with that organization, and guess what they're about to do? I think they're getting rid of whatever they call the coach, the head coach over there, the manager, the team, or whatever. But they're about to get rid of them. And if this gets to a point to where there's fan unrest, I hate to say it, but Alex Cora is going to be the one who will take the hit because Henry and Breslow are aligned, and this roster shows it.
Well, I think you texted in our thread, like nothing to do with Alex Cora here. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? There's only so much he can do without
it's true.
His hand.
But Henry is not going to get rid of why is Chaim Bloom not here? Is it because he was a bad or is a bad baseball guy? Or because he wanted to deviate away from the way John Henry wants to do things? Now in real retrospect, why did Craig Breslow get the job? Because he was willing to go along to get along when it came to the money end of things. There were plenty good general managers who came through and interviewed, but I'm sure when John Henry, took the drag off the cigar and was like, we've won enough here. I'm not going to spend any more money. A lot of those GMs said, thank you very much. They walked off the yacht, got on the plane, and went home.
You know, I know you were doing a great impersonation there, but what you said is so true. Like, I've spent enough money. That's hard to hear. We're going to get to the Red Sox in topic 3. Before we get too far into it, I'm just going to pull back on the Red Sox a little bit. So there's a lot we could get into from this weekend. There's a lot going on sort of all over the world of sports. But my favorite moment of the weekend was when the camera caught Don Staley talking about Gino Auriemma. I'll beat Gino's ass.
I love it.
Absolutely. Give me all my money on Don Staley. For those who didn't see it, there was a little dust up between Gino Auriemma, who really didn't take losing that basketball game very well, as far as I'm concerned, and went up to Don Staley and had some words. And so anyway, there was like footage of Don Staley saying, I'll beat Gino's ass, and give me all of that. That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was, as you and I are doing this show right now, we'll see how Dan Hurley handles things after tonight. Saturday morning on Mad Dog Sports Radio, I was all over the UConn coaches and their athletic director, who David Benedict, right? So this guy, Dave Benedict, he's more of a businessman. He came up from Auburn. And I remember when I was out working in Connecticut, he ended up using stuff that I said, and this was told to me by people who were negotiating with him for the new UConn right. And when they were dealing with my old station, WTIC, they brought up that I was pretty hard on the football coach, which, by the way, this fucking guy fired, and he waited until after January 1st to save $1 million to do it. But me ripping Diaco for being either a bad coach or a total cornball was a problem. But what that guy
has, I will beat Gino's ass. There it is on your screen. Go ahead, continue.
That AD has enabled, he has enabled both of those coaches to act like assholes. I want you to think of something, Jay. In what other program in America do both the men's and the women's basketball coaches get away with the kind of BS that Gino and Hurley do? That's a reflection of the person managing them as well.
So since you brought up Hurley, right, the idea that he was expecting a chest bump from the official, right? And I'm sure you talked about this all week, but I do want to say one thing to you. I am glad that the official, and maybe they're good boys, whatever. I am glad the official didn't sort of blow the whistle in that spot when he got up close to him. Emotions are part of the game. So I was glad he kept the whistle at bay a couple weeks back when right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was stupid from Hurley. He should know better. No, the officials don't care who wins and loses, and he knows it. That was him intimidating the official if he gets him in another game. That to me was, now there's your jubilation right there. Now you realize what's going on. He's trying to get to the other coach, right? As we're watching this video, look, he took it all in. He thought it was going to be a chest bump. He was intimidating that. Fuck Hurley. He was trying to get in, like, seriously. Now look. Now here's what I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. The announcer and commentator will rip the hell out of Hurley because he acts like a jackass sometimes. Would I send my kid to go play for him? 100%. Because I know, even though I don't like the sideline antics and the stuff that Hurley pulls, I can respect the fact that he is doing a really good job of getting people to care about the right kind of things. And that's why he's able to win at that level. There's got to be great life lessons that are taught to his kids, even though I cannot like the guy on the sideline.
Yeah, he's got a little Nick Sirianni in him, right? And some of these guys are passionate and emotional and sort of wear their heart on their sleeves and show the world maybe sides of them that other head coaches are poised enough to sort of keep that closer to the vest. But anyway, Auriemma's an old man and Staley's built quite a program, but forget those two programs. Shout out UCLA. UCLA women, they hadn't won a title since the year I was born, 1978. The UCLA women absolutely stomped South Carolina and win that title. Pretty exciting for Los Angeles.
Let me give you a betting nugget that my guy Will Hill and I did not have when we did our show on Sunday morning on VSiN. Since 2007, the teams that beat the UConn women in the NCAA tournament, like the way South Carolina did, they are now 1-11 in their next tournament game in that run. The only win in that span was Notre Dame in 2018 during, I don't know, a player's magical weekend in Columbus or whatever. So the team that beats the UConn women on average since '07 gets beat in their next game. And that's what happened with South Carolina. UCLA just didn't beat. They whooped them pretty hard.
As a 4.5-point underdog. Wow.
Yeah, plus 170 dog. And they ended up winning by 20 whatever. And then the guy posted that. And I texted it to the Will, the guy I do the show with. And I'm like, can you believe this shit? Like, how? And
Right.
he was like, now that is a stat. That's one to remember for future NCAA tournaments or women's tournaments, because the women's tournaments are always so chalky. It's always, always number one.
The guy that gave us that stat, though, I think it was The Wedding Singer, where Adam Sandler said, information that would have been better for me yesterday. Because you can be sure I would have gone to the window with that piece of information.
Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, that plus 170 money line cash, and I think UConn is plus 150 on straight. It might be bigger than that
tonight. UConn plus 240. So before we get into our topics, right? Michigan minus 6.5. I mean, all season long, Michigan's been the best team in the world.
One of the top three.
Yeah. So, but really though, in early in the season, it was sort of them and everybody else sort of at a cut below them. So I can understand why they're 6.5-point favorites here. You think UConn gets it done?
You know what? I'm not betting.
I know you do.
I'm not betting against them. Yeah, and you know what's crazy is for a month on VSiN, we talked about UConn, and it was, boy, they're not playing great. And then they had a really bad regular season loss to Marquette, and then they lose in the Big East tournament, and you're like, nah. Also, they were going into the NCAA tournament. UConn was 12-22 against the number. They weren't very good against the spread this year. So you had a lot of reasons to doubt them. And we would always come back to in the conversation, yeah, but it's Hurley and his teams are really made for this. And even though the Big East, top to bottom, wasn't good, I'm a believer in the Big East getting you ready for these kinds of moments, right? And I mentioned this before, Jay, like if you're UConn and it says Providence on the schedule, when you go to PC, you're getting 12,500 people in a building that's full who are pissed off at you because you're just from one state over. I don't know if there is that night to night or game to game in the other big conferences, but I can't go against UConn, honestly.
No,
and Jay, I'd bet them both ways. I bet them with the points and then bet them on the money line, because if there's a team who's going to figure it out, it's going to be UConn.
And if they do find a way, this will be their third championship in 4 years, which in this era of NIL and college sports is absolutely incredible. I root for New England, right? I root for the brother that isn't as famous, right? Dan Hurley versus Bobby Hurley, right? Bobby Hurley had obviously a great playing career, right? I'm the less famous brother. You could be sure. But anyway, so there's a part of me that's rooted for Danny Hurley until I saw him on camera and saw some of his antics, and then I'm just like, Jesus. But hard not to root against Michigan and seeing all the Fab Five back together. So, I'll take a peek tonight. You can be sure.
You know what? I'm not comparing Hurley to Belichick coach to coach, but I am going to say this. The way that Bill Belichick, and I've talked with Fourier about this as well, that Philadelphia Super Bowl that they played in Jacksonville, and when Belichick shoveled the shit right onto his team of they got the parade route planned out. You know what I mean?
That was the best.
He could make the underdog thing work fabulously. I'm thinking Hurley's doing the same thing. Hey, we've been undervalued all year long. All everybody talked about going into this tournament was Michigan and Arizona and Duke. We beat Duke to be able to get here. We knock out this other team and prove that Hurley is going to shovel it all on his team. And I think they're going to eat it up. Honestly, I do. I think they're going to eat it up. I really wonder. I'm going to try to look a little bit later on, Jay, on first 10-minute plays or maybe first half plays, because I could see UConn just junkyard dogging their way to a small first half lead at or a small halftime lead.
Yeah, and I also, if I'm going to play UConn, I'm more apt to play them plus 240 than take those points, because I certainly think Michigan has shown their ability to blow teams out. I love Doc Rivers' line. I know he's talking about the NBA, but saying it's a make-miss league. Like, that's what basketball, right? Like, UConn, you want to make a bunch of shots tonight, you got a great chance to win if you make a bunch of shots, right? Like, you make a bunch of threes, you got a great chance. I mean, look at the Celtics box scores. When they hit threes, they're impossible to beat. Impossible.
Oh my gosh. And that's a great, I know we have to, do you want to hit UFC before we go to the Celtics, or
no? We can hit that at the end.
All right.
UFC is topic 4, so we can dive right into the round ball.
I like it. And the Celtics are playing really good basketball right now. I know when we started the year, we recognized that Brad Stevens did what he had to do with the tax, but he didn't punt on building a basketball team. It wasn't just, I got to liquidate the assets. He still thought about building something for this year. And I think the number before the year was 43 or 44 wins. You and I were both really liking the over. And now at 52 and 25, not only are the Celtics going to be the number 2 team in the Eastern Conference, they are the odds-on favorite to win the Eastern Conference, even though they aren't the number 1 seed. And Jay, here's another one. I think in the last 9 years, do you know who is the only number 1 seed to advance to the NBA Finals out of the East? That was the 2024 Celtics.
The only one.
So for the last decade, the number 1 seeds in the East have not made the NBA Finals. So that kind of bodes pretty well for the Celtics. That and the way they're playing. And you and I talked a lot about what kind of role will Jason Tatum have. And Jason Tatum was like, I'm coming back to be Jason Tatum. And you know what he's rounding into being? Jason Tatum once again. Because if you look at the box score of his last couple of games, he's heating up. He's starting to gain that confidence back.
I said to my mom last night, who watches all 82 games, we should be most surprised that Jason Tatum looks like Jason Tatum, and also not surprised in the same realm that he just looks like Jason Tatum. I think Chris Mannix said that if the Celtics win the championship this year, it would be the greatest championship of all time. Not only literally the greatest NBA championship feat of all time, because you lost 4 out of your 9 players, I think, from your rotation, and you got Tatum coming back from an Achilles. And you look at the numbers on Polymarket, they're favored to win the Eastern Conference. I just want to talk about a couple things, right? One thing I just have to note from Cody's night, how about those 53 points in a record first quarter against the Miami Heat? I hate the Heat. I live down here. One of my least favorite teams of all time, organizations root against them, so I didn't mind that. But I just want to talk about Jason Tatum, because I thought one of the things that I missed while he was gone was his rebounding, and some of the numbers in a very short amount of time are so apparent. And I just want to read you a few things, right? So Celtics were really a struggling rebounding unit, right? But since his return on March 6th, the team's defensive rebounding rate has surged from about 70% to 75% and have climbed in the top 4 league-wide in multiple rebounding categories. He's averaging 9.9 rebounds per game, which I think would be a career high, right? His best efficiency, because these rebounds, he's only playing 31 minutes per game, which is also a good number of minutes for a guy coming off. But just a couple other things, right? In that game against the Heat, right? He had 18 rebounds, including 39.5% of all available defensive boards during that game. Like, he just eats glass. He's such a physical problem. He does so many things, right? And so one thing that I think, the final note on this rebounding thing, right? The Celtics, they frequently gave up high numbers in offensive rebounds to athletic opponents, such as the Pistons, who did punch that number 1 seed, because they are aggressive blocking shots and don't put themselves in position to box out or whatever. Tatum just cleans up so many problems. And I think taking a step back and being able to sort of watch this team, and being able to, he's a very smart guy, Tatum, and he's humble, wanting to see where he can fit in. And certainly that one area of focus, right? The double-doubles, the triple-doubles. I mean, I can't say enough.
Well, I think the thing for me there is he's always been a sneaky good rebounder. And if you look at it, 6 of the last 7 games, he's had double-digit rebounds. But here are the numbers that jump out to me when it comes to Tatum, because I disagree with you. He's not looking to fit in. He's looking to be Jason Tatum. and that's the number one option. However,
yeah, you missed my point. But I'll go after it. But I'm not. You missed my point. If that's where you're going.
No. In the end, you mentioned about him fitting in.
Well, that can be one and the same, and being the alpha dog. But go ahead. Both things can be true.
But it's the assists that jump out. 11 assists against Miami, 9 against Milwaukee, 7 against Toronto. And when you're doing it and getting more than 20 points and you're getting double-digit rebounds, you're affecting the game in every way, and the shot efficiency is ultimately going to go up. Even if Tatum doesn't have big assist numbers, the efficiency is going to go up because people now have to play him as if he is the real Jason Tatum, not rehabbing Jason Tatum, if you feel what I'm putting down. People have to give him the respect that they normally would if this guy didn't end up ripping his Achilles. And to me, I was worried about, would Tatum come in and the ball would stop? And
I don't think you were worried about that, though. That's what the casual fan was worried about. You weren't.
But for me, it was, what was going to be the mindset and how would Mazzulla mix him in? And you know what it was, Jay? I missed it all along. It was, well, when Jay Tatum comes back, everything changes, and that's where Joe Mazzulla has had 20 games to work it out. And what I mean by that is rotationally, because it's not like Tatum has come back and he's playing 25 minutes a night and he's babying it. You know, you look at that Miami game, guy played 37 minutes, 31 against Milwaukee, 34 against Toronto. He may not get to the 40-minute mark, but, Jay, they're building him more and more. And the first couple games when he came back, it was 27 minutes. Then they jumped him into the 30s. I feel like the next jump in minutes is about to start to happen for Tatum, where it's, hey, he's going to be a 40-minute man once again, and it's going to be Tatum and Brown, and here we go. And how far can they take this team, which will be to the finals, because the Knicks are no different than they were last year. They just have a different coach.
All right. Lot to digest there. I was surprised to hear you say that you were surprised, because you and I both expected this not to be any issue in the transition whatsoever. It was the sort of bullshit narrative, casual sort of everybody, oh, how are they going to work him in? My point about him being on the bench was, I didn't use the words fit in. My point is his ability to look at everything that's happening and be able to see where he's needed most and he's applied his overall game. I'm not talking about him being a piece or anything like that. So when you said you disagreed, I was like, no, you totally missed the point. If they have any chance to achieve anything, he's going to have to be that alpha. We talked that he was going to start all along, right? So anyway, for me, the idea that they are just going to win the East, right? Poly market at 36%. The Detroit Pistons, to me, are going to have something to say about this. So are the New York Knicks. Even though we might, look at the Celtics as the favorite right now, I think Detroit's going to have something to say. I really do. You don't.
Nope, not at all. The Celtics won't even see him. That's why, to me, I think it's moot.
Wow.
Well, they're not even because the only way the Celtics would end up seeing them would be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Detroit's not making the East Finals.
So you think Cleveland takes them out, perhaps?
I think Cleveland gets Detroit. Yeah. Or
even Atlanta.
Listen, either way, here's all I know. I think if the Celtics end up playing Detroit, they beat Detroit because Detroit doesn't have the championship level experience. If it is either Cleveland or Atlanta, oh my God, you could start whacking it right now, because neither one of those teams are beating the Celtics.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Arguably this is going to sound weird, but arguably the two biggest challenges, I think, for the Celtics are going to come from Charlotte, if they get there, and the Knicks. Charlotte's playing good basketball. They're long, they're rangy, they're young. Now, the Celtics ultimately will beat them because you got to have that experience. But Charlotte's a team to, don't take them lightly. Put it that way.
Totally agree. Those are the two teams that really present the most problems when I look at that board. You know, as much as the Heat were always a team that I feared just because of sort of familiarity and just the Heat getting the Celtics numbers at times in the past, these rosters are incomparable. The Celtics should be able to handle either team from Florida, as you see in the top side of that play-in. But I'm with you. Go ahead. Were you chomping at something? The Hornets, I'm with you. And
yeah,
the Knicks.
they're the Hornets are frisky. Cody put something in the chat that's really interesting. That is true. The Knicks basically built their team to beat Boston, last year's team. If you look at the way they put the Knicks together, the Knicks were put together to deal with Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, not this version of the Celtics. And Derek White is still a problem for the Knicks. So I agree with Cody. The Knicks were built to deal with Boston, but it was more of it was old Boston, not this new roster, which is less talented, but it's a different group when you have Tatum, Brown, and D. White out on the floor.
Well, and Jaylen Brown is a different player than, dare I say, the finals MVP from 2 years ago. I mean, he looks different out there, even with Jason Tatum. So you know, this 1-2 or 1-1A, like, gosh, they are very close to sort of equal parts. And that's a tribute to Brown, because, you know, Tatum's all NBA. It's just unbelievable to watch Tatum. And I guess we just shouldn't be surprised, but physically, it's unbelievable. It's like he hasn't missed a beat.
Here's what's crazy about JB in the year that he put up. He is still plus 50,000 to win the MVP. So when Jaylen Brown wants to go down the road of the lack of respect card, I hope that's the card that he plays. Not like, hey, listen, I had the year of my life, and, you know, I'm not even going to probably finish in the top 5 in the MVP voting. Like, that's the one that he should be shoving up everybody's rear end when he wants to get in the ambulance when he has a sad.
You know, I will say, though, that MVP race, it has less to do with his game than just the top of the top is just silly good, and SGA and Jokic, whatever. It goes on.
I mean, I'm like, Wemby might steal the MVP, because people are now starting to really realize, like, just true unicorn the guy really is.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, I would probably, yeah, I hear you. What do we got?
Well, yeah. SGA is the big overwhelming favorite. Wemby is the only one close. By the way, have you seen the year Jokic is having? Like, he's only going to average a triple-double and finish third for the MVP. Like, what are we doing here?
Well, exactly, it's just fascinating. But no, Wemby, you're right, man. You sold me. You know, if I have a vote here today, it probably is Wemby. Honestly,
me too.
It just is. Like, I with respect to SGA, and the 1 seed does matter to me a little bit. Anyway, Celtics are very exciting. We'll see what happens there. Let's get to a little baseball. I know we touched on it off the top. Only team without 3 wins. You know, I come back to what you've been saying for months about needing that number 1 bat. And is that ultimately that the biggest, you know, weakness of this team in terms of John Henry not being able to spend money to get that Soto from last year or whatever it was?
Yeah, you know what it is? It's like an O-line that is missing a center. Right? You can have everything set, but if you don't have that one piece that everybody can kind of revolve around, that's what I feel like this offense is. If you put someone in the 3 or the 4 spot, whatever, I would say the 4. If you got a big bopper in the 4 spot, now everybody else settles in the way they need to. And it gives you more flexibility, because Alex Cora's got to play the left-right game. He's got to match the lineup to the pitcher, because it's just the way they're built. But if you had that one mother bleeper who, you know, you could write in the lineup in ink for 160 games right in the middle of your order, and then I can set everything else around that, it does feel like that kind of is the missing piece, the true superstar. And I'm talking about somebody who's going to hit the ball out of the ballpark 40 times a year. You know,
yes.
I don't need a big mother bleeper like Aaron Judge, but I need somebody who's going to be sturdy enough to invest in, who I know is going to come in and be able to handle the situation right away. That's the other part of this as well. We want Roman Anthony to morph into Manny Ramirez, but he's going to do it here, and it's going to go slow.
Right.
And
You called it.
But what are we all going to do? We're all going to start to question it. We'll be like, oh my God, how come he isn't this, that, or the other? If it's an 8-year veteran who comes in and is there to have the weight of the earth on their shoulders and be right in the middle of the lineup, you have to be able to, Steve Buckley said it perfectly. You have to be able to deal with the Boston baseball experience. And like when Manny Ramirez came here, that sumbitch was already good, and he was aloof enough to not worry about everything off the field, but he was so good, no one hooted him anyway. That's the hard part about being a young player in Boston, is you're going to hear it while you're on the way up. And for some guys, it breaks them. For some, it motivates them, move on. I think it motivated him that there were those who were like, I don't know if this guy's that good. It pushed him. That's what you need around here. And you got to have somebody who can deal with the Boston baseball experience and still come in and hit 40 home runs. And it's a glaring need, man. Because let me ask you this, Shay. And you're not allowed to answer Alex Cora. On the 25-man roster, who's the leader of this team?
Exactly.
Who's the right? Like, you can point to people you hope or want to lead the team, like Roman Anthony, like we want him to be Manny Ramirez at the plate, but there's no, I guess it's Trevor Story, maybe.
Well, it would be Garrett Crochet, but a starter that plays every fifth day, it doesn't. It can't be that guy, and really good stuff there from you, and you put yourself in a position at 2-7 where even Garrett Crochet, when you hear him crack a mic, it's like he has to be perfect because he's got to win every fifth day to keep them alive at this point. I'm hoping at this point, I know it's early, Gresh, but given what you've said all along, sort of leading up and the roller coaster stuff, I'm hoping they actually bottom out and the roller coaster, falls off the tracks because ultimately I think that is the only thing, because to your points, really at the outset of the show, what you don't want is mediocrity. You don't want to be the Miami Dolphins of the NFL going, 9-8 every year and just sort of scratching the surface. You don't want it. So I kind of hope they bottom out because ultimately you talked about how good their pitching staff could be, right? But yes, the potential's there. But if the pitching staff is not going to be elite, we know the team is going to struggle.
And that's why they may not crater. You know what I mean? Like they may have insulated themselves enough to where they wouldn't drop down and be, say, a 75-win team. But if they're 81-81, we're going to be unsatisfied. And you're not that far away from being a bad team. Like, to your point, the best thing in the world for us as fans is that it bottoms out. Because then it forces them to have to think differently. And I feel what you're saying. A nice 75-win season where everybody is unhappy would be just what the doctor ordered to maybe get this management team to think differently and start to spend again.
Yes. And I want to go back to the roller coaster thing because I really want to thank you actually. And I'm actually looking at you and not my camera right now because you've actually helped me get to a place in my fandom where I look at it very realistically, whereas I don't think I did last year as much because Cora gets them in the tournament. You know what I mean? And so when you get in the tournament, it just gives me juice, but I don't. And maybe the 2-7 start is part of it, but it's like they weren't going 7-2 out of the gate. It wasn't happening. And your points about the leader, gosh, those are so well taken because that's part of it. It's like you talk about David Ortiz. It's not just the stick. It's making everybody think you're going to win every day. Go ahead.
Yeah. Who do you turn to in that clubhouse when it's bad? I know Roman Anthony said it's unacceptable, or whatever. Great, then go drive the ball out of the ballpark next couple 3, 4, 5 games and shut everybody up. Like seriously, go change it. However, the 2-7 start, they've got to try to level it out by the end of the month because the one thing that you can't do is end up with 7 wins at the end of the, say you're 7-18 at the end of the month or something like that, because you can't get out of your own way. That means you need 18-7 at some point during the season just to get even. And that's not happening with this team. So they got to level up here pretty quick. And if they win the next 3 series and you go 6-3, now you've at least kind of balanced it out a little bit record wise. Yes. And you're not completely sucking hind teeth. Now the problem is they're playing the Brewers, who are pretty good. The Cardinals are not great. The Twins are the Twins. But then you get a healthy dose of the Tigers and the Yankees this month. And then people think the Orioles are going to be good. So, can you pull it together by the time you're in Baltimore on Friday the 24th and at least be closer to 500 and not like 5 or 6 games under? If they're that far under when they get to the Orioles on the 24th, then, we're looking at needing a miracle just to get to even, let alone to pull ahead.
Well, you look at these first 3 games here. It's like you gotta come through here 4-8 going to St. Louis. You know what I mean? You got to get 2 of these 3 minimum, or 5 and 7 best case scenario. If you have 3-9 heading to St. Louis, like better luck next year. So I think this series is crucial.
Can you win the next 3 series? So you take 2 out of 3 from the Brew Crew, 2 out of 3 from St. Louis, 2 out of 3 from the Twins. That gets you at 6-3 with a 2-7 record. So what's that put you at? 8-9. Okay, now you're all right, 8-10,
and then you're and then you get,
and then here comes the Tigers and the Yankees, where let's see if this can really stick, and can we hang against these teams? But man, oh man, not the start that was needed, not what you're looking for at all, and
getting late earlier for the baseball team from Boston.
Well, you know what it is, Jay? You and I both like Alex Cora, and there's so much to like there. And I know he's starting his big extension, or that started maybe last year. So he's getting $8 million a year. So it's a little more difficult to fire him if you're John Henry. But at the end of the day, that's short money in the long run to keep someone who may not spend it. And unfortunately, if we get to the point of fan unrest, that's exactly what they're going to do. They'll push Cora out the door. We'll get even madder. Then they'll probably go 8-2, and it'll shut everybody up, and we'll all move on with our lives. And Alex will pocket $20 million going back to Bayamon, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and go replace Aaron Boone in New York next year.
Yeah. And get $10 million and set a new record on salary and get No, he might have to leg out a year. He might have to leg out a year at ESPN just to be able to collect John Henry's money. So, I'm getting $8 million to sit on the beach because the Red Sox don't want to spend. Let me go make another $2 million from ESPN and be their best analyst.
Exactly.
Pretty good. If you're Alex Cora, you're going to be good either way.
So I know you're a good golfer and an avid golf fan. The Masters is always at the top of the list for me. At some point, we got to try to find our way there. Go ahead.
That's tough. I've tried to do that for years. I mean, because it's a lottery. Like to get the tickets, you're like signing up, and there's people from it. It's not, unfortunately, I wish it was a clandestine process that you could, interfere with, but it isn't the case.
Our chances now have to be better than ever, right? With the UFC on Paramount Plus and Paramount and CBS, maybe some synergy there, perhaps, right? Where my brother, if my brother's broadcasting with a CBS microphone, that shouldn't be too many doors to walk through, right?
Yeah, listen, if he's calling 16 because Vern is done and they didn't like who they put in there, then okay, yes. I think we got a chance. But if you and I show up at the front door and say, "Hey, we know this guy," they'll be, "Get the fuck out of here."
It's Gas Morning Drive. The color scheme matches.
Yeah, right. The color scheme. There you go, baby. Low Score. The Masters, sponsored by Low Score Golf.
Low Score Golf, right? Shout out Low Score Golf today. Bone with a Dixon Ticonderoga pencil.
What a great shirt that is. That is right? That's a great shirt. Cody sent me mine, but I can't break my gimmick. Plus, I was outside 2 minutes before I turned the camera on. It was a little chilly this morning.
Is it? So
it was like 39 degrees.
Do you bet this tournament or golf in general?
I will only usually play the top 5 or the top 10 market if I do at all. I don't try to pick tournament winners. Um, so I do occasionally, and sometimes it might be like, some of the people that I work with at VSiN are holding tickets on UConn, and they were trying to find different ways to hedge. And one of the things they were looking at was maybe a top 5 or a top 10 market for some of these golfers to, figure out different ways for them to hedge UConn maybe not winning the championship tonight.
Yeah. The top 5, top 10 stuff makes sense to me. From an entertainment standpoint, I prefer betting the winners. It's probably a more square play. It's probably sharper to play top 5, top 10. Like this last tournament, I had Fitzpatrick and Ulberg. Not this last tournament, a few tournaments back. Players Championship. I had Ulberg and Fitzpatrick were in the top 2. Both end up losing. Yeah, my Schauffele top 5 ticket cash, but who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? I like picking the winners, right? So in terms of this tournament, I like looking at top 10s from previous years just to see guys that have played well on this course. I think that matters more at this tournament than others. I think if you play well here, you're going to come in at a very confident place. So I love Ulberg at 17.5 to 1. I just like his energy a lot, and I think he's sort of due. So Ulberg is definitely going to get some of my money. I like rooting for Bryson DeChambeau in big spots, so perhaps he may get some of my money. I'll look at a few others down the board, but for me, it's DeChambeau and Ulberg at the moment. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't argue against that at all. I think what is happening in terms of the kind of the rhetoric around the Masters and then the players that people are really picking is that some folks are forgetting about the live players, right? Like Cam Smith, Charles Schwartzel, who won the Masters in 2011. John Rahm is another guy that people forget about. He won the Masters in 23 because we don't see these guys all the time anymore. Dustin Johnson is probably undervalued going in.
Yes.
What do you got?
I don't mean to interrupt you, but peek at what Cody put up on the screen. What do you think of that, Gresh? Big guns versus the field. That's interesting.
Hold on. Scheffler, McIlroy, Rahm, boy, they gave you 5 of the best.
And to me, to get Scheffler, Schauffele, a couple safe ones in there, McIlroy's not going to defend it, I don't think, right? He won last year.
What's fucking me? What's messing me up is Rahm, because I like Rahm to have a top 5 finish, but the field, I mean,
I know.
How about this? Let me give you. All right.
Sorry, you were talking.
Hold on. No, Cody, can you go back to that big bet, please? Go back to that prop that we were just looking at there. Schauffele, McIlroy, Rahm, DeChambeau, and Ulberg. Okay, these are just the live guys. Sergio, Tyrell Hatton, Dustin Johnson, Carlos Ortiz, Charles Schwartzel, Cam Smith, Bubba Watson, who's won it twice. So those 5 guys are very intoxicating. But when you look at the depth of the field and the former winners that are there, I think I might go with the field. Even though those are 5 guys that are likely to win it, the depth is pretty good. We forget about some of these cats. Tommy Fleetwood, he finally got a win, right?
Justin Rose lost to McIlroy in a playoff last year, I believe. He's always right there. Yes, very interesting. Scottie.
Because I'm with you on that prop. I'm not big on McIlroy, but I am big on Rahm in this tournament.
Me too.
But I'm with you. I don't. And Scheffler's been great, but there's normally a European that comes out of nowhere who is one back going into the final round, and it's a name that we know, but we didn't talk about.
And Fitzpatrick can be sneaky in that spot. He's won a U.S. Open, I believe. Rahm at plus 910. That's good value. Your points about top 5, top 10 are well taken. But if I'm looking for a winner there and find some value, I kind of like that number on Rahm. When Rahm was playing on the PGA Tour, you'd see him, more in that Scheffler number, 4 or 5 to 1. So I think a little value there on Rahm, perhaps. And he feels due a little bit as well.
Well, I know he won it a couple years ago. And again, you forget about the live guys because I look, if live golf is on, sometimes I'll watch it, sometimes I won't. They're playing like Chumbawamba in the background, so sometimes it's a little annoying. However, those guys are live. Ulberg as well is another dude that I look at. You're going to give me plus 154 on Ludwig to get a top 10? Man, oh man, that feels like it's kind of calling me a little bit. Like you start to look at McIlroy might not.
That's interesting, Gresh.
McIlroy might not defend, but can Rory get a top 10?
Well, and you know what? Leave that up there, okay? If you have a fucking bag.
Oh,
right?
There we go. Ulberg top 20, 144.
Right. But I like that plus 154 top 10. But McIlroy to finish in the top 20. I understand sometimes the wheels fall off, but minus 220, right? As a parlay piece or even a straight wager. It's like what happens to McIlroy is even if McIlroy has a terrible tournament, as long as he makes the cut, he's going to fire 64 on fucking Sunday and finish 9th, even if he's out of it, So I don't know. There's very interesting things with this tournament. And some of these props.
I would say there's a small group of guys that you might wager to win it, and some of that might be odds related because you can talk yourself into really a handful of guys winning it. Yep. But I think now there you go. There's top 5, top 10, top 20 markets. That to me, there's where you go shopping. Is Rahm? Is that plus 100 for a top 10 on Rahm? Is that even money?
Gresh, what did we just see for a Berg? Was it plus 154? Now we're seeing plus 186.
Well, Cody had the top 20. Hang on, top 20. The other one that Cody had up. Oh no, it's I think he maybe wrote the wrong thing in there. Yeah,
he's saying it moved 20 cents.
Oh, so move 20
Ulberg
cents.
plus 186 top 10. That has some juice there because I think he's going to contend.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And he would be one of the candidates to take for maybe winning the whole damn thing. So anyway, there you go. So there, and look, the course will be the course. I have not looked at like weather for the weekend down there. Like the only reason I wonder is, say you get a good soaking rain on a Friday night, who are those guys that are going to be able to go out on Saturday morning and maybe take advantage of it? That kind of stuff in terms of the live betting. Stay on top of the weather there.
Hey, so before we move on to combat sports, pick a winner regardless of odds. Give me a winner. If you got to name one name with a gun to your head to win the Masters. And if you want me to go first, I'll go first.
Jon Rahm.
I like it.
Who do you got?
I'm going to go with DeChambeau. I don't even really know why. But anyway, so we're going to talk about the UFC. We talk about combat sports. Just want to let you know, because I know you appreciate this. My 6th week in a row out in Vegas for the Professional Grappling Federation this week.
Yes.
So wheels up tomorrow. So the 20 athletes have been pared down to an 8-man playoff. So the Las Vegas Kings defended their title and they won the regular season championship. So now we go out there this Wednesday. So it's an 8-man bracket and these are 8 elite athletes. I'm excited to get out there. And then I'll go red eye Wednesday night, Thursday morning, weigh in Miami for Dirty Boxing 6, DBX 6 live Friday night in Miami, the night before UFC 327. DBX 7 is going to be in DC June 13th, perhaps the night before UFC, whatever, 250 White House or whatever.
Right, the White House card.
So anyway, for I will say, anyone watching this, it's in the Miami area. If you are in town for the UFC and maybe can't afford to go to the UFC event, come to Dirty Boxing the night before. But it's going to be a busy week, Gresh. I'm excited for Dirty Boxing Friday night.
Now that's awesome news on Dirty Boxing. Now, if they pull that off in Washington, and it looks like they are, have you been background checked and anally probed to be able to go to the White House grounds?
That's really interesting. Anytime Donald Trump is going to be in the building at any UFC event, I get an extra little tweak, right? Mm-hmm. I won't get into the details for the extra little tweak, but so I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything yet. I was with my guy Dean Thomas in Vegas. I know Dean's going to be there. working, right? So I know Dean's going to be there, but I don't know how I feel about that in terms of my personal situation there. I know it's going to be sort of tough, but I don't need a ticket. I got a credential. So, when I went to Canelo Crawford, when I went to Canelo, but I don't know. The White House may be different, right? But Canelo Crawford, my credential didn't work because it was boxing, right? I still was taken care of, right? So, but I don't think my credential going to be working on the White House ground. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's creeping. These, as you know, the months fall off the calendar as you get older.
But you got the credit. See, that's why I grinned, is because that is the hack. See, for many, many years, like when I was on, so I spent 10 years on the Patriots radio network, Jay. And before the first game, we'd get the Patriots, because they would send us our stuff. Like most people, you got to go down to like security command and get your credentials and all that bullshit, right? We're on the network, so they send us our stuff. And when you're on the network and we would have to go on the field, they would send us the NFL, they would send us the black pass. And so when you had the lanyard, it was the black, which meant you could go anywhere. When I met my wife and I told her about this thing, I had to like keep an eye on it, because for those who know my wife, she's mischievous enough to like go check in at the club seat and then have the black pass and try to walk around and go all these different places and stuff. So I feel what you're saying there. There was a 10-year period where it didn't matter where I was. I just walk around Gillette Stadium and flash the black pass, and people would say, go ahead. And you had nothing to worry about. So that's why I grinned.
Oh, and you certainly looked apart, but go ahead.
That's the hack. That's the hack of these events. If you can get set up with stuff like that to where, you can just roam around as you want to.
Right. The only thing I can't do. Well, the only thing I can't do at these UFC events is escort someone else, right? I don't have the escort pass, right? But other than that, pretty much free reign.
And it always says it on the back, where it'll say if you do or do not have escort privileges, because there was one year with us where they forgot to take it off of there. And, I'm like, oh, I have escorting privileges. And then, they had caught on to it and like gave me the new pass and like cleaned that up real quick. That's a big deal. It is. And it's a real big deal. The whole escorting privileges. And next thing you know, there's like some weirdo standing ringside. And it's like, who brought this fucking guy down?
Exactly.
Like, what's this guy doing?
So, but I do look forward to going to UFC 327. I haven't been to a UFC event in 2026. So I'm excited, to sit behind my brother and sort of been doing a little bit of my own thing. So I'm excited to watch him do his thing again. So I'm excited. So we'll do Dirty Boxing Friday night. Then we'll spend the night and then drive over to John's hotel and be with him and head over for that. Go ahead.
Are you going to Newark?
Maybe.
I am.
TBD.
We're going. Jack and my youngest and I, you know what? I got ahead of the game, and there's a hotel right by Prudential Center for UFC is holding their event in Newark. And that's already, I think, UFC blocked off. You can't get in there. I tried a couple different ways. So I just booked a room at the train station, because we'll probably take Amtrak down. It's easy. And then it's like a 10-minute walk to the arena. It's not terrible or whatever. And yeah, we're going. I can't. I see what Cody just put in there.
What's the
God
date?
Damn it.
May 9th or something?
It's May 9 or 10. Hang on.
So that moves the needle for me, Gresh. I think I was probably 50-50. Now let's say I'm 60-40 in terms of going to Newark.
9th. It's on the 9th.
So, I've looked at this fight card for UFC 327, and I'll be interested to see what betting spots jump out to you. But it looks like a very deep card to me with a lot of really good matchups, where like I'm really interested to watch some of the scraps. And I understand we lost. Tyra is gone, right? The Tashira Tyra Joshua Van, that's not happening, right?
That is
due to injury.
That's been moved to Newark. I do
Which is
believe.
Great
so it gives them a second title fight on that card, if I'm not mistaken.
So
I think it's more of a Josh Van thing than I think it's more the other way. That's because Cody wrote in the chat, Van is hurt And that's what I thought as well, or at least that was the report that I read. But either way, they moved that to Newark, which is great. It gives them 2 title fights.
And this to me is one of those cards, UFC 327, where the UFC just has a massive preliminary card flex. Yeah. It's like, go fuck yourselves. Look at our prelims, okay? These prelim fights, when you compare to some of these other promotions and everything else, because the UFC is always listening to people rumble, right? Tatiana Suarez, Lupi Godinez, Gamrot Ribovics, Holland versus Randy Brown, and then Pitbull, Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico, a loser maybe out of the UFC. I mean, that really, to me, those prelims on this fight card, and then Dominic Reyes, Johnny Walker on the main card. I mean, I go on and on, but there's a lot of meat on this bone for me at UFC 327.
Yeah, it's funny. Cody put in the chat Bellator World Championship when my kid and I, because Jack came home for the weekend, and my youngest, and I said, "Oh, it's Pitbull and Pico," and he goes, "Oh, we probably saw that at Mohegan Sun at Bellator," and I said, "You're probably right. We may have." You got Kevin Holland and Randy Brown. That's a sneaky good fight as well.
Pitbull bounced back from that. I think he lost to Yair Rodriguez, that really good bounce back against Danny Ige. That's a big number next to Pitbull's name, and Pico with everything to prove, I think, after losing to Lerone Murphy. That fight fascinates me. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you know what you said, the loser might be headed out of UFC. We knew Pitbull was only stopping by. This is his, 4th fight, I think, or something like that. So,
you're right,
they jammed him in there. And, I mean, had Pitbull gotten to the UFC 5 years ago, it might be a very different narrative. And I'm sure that Bellator, hey, listen, those checks cashed when he was a part of that brand, I'm sure. And maybe they overpaid him or whatever. But we're not getting the Pitbull in the prime. Kind of the same as Chandler. When Chandler got to UFC, he had a little more left in the tank, but it was, hey, we're passing through for a couple of years, and then we know we're going to be out of here. I'm glad you mentioned Esteban Ribovics, because there's something about that guy. And again, I was talking about it with my youngest, right? Like, there are certain dudes when they fight, it's like, oh, I love that guy. And Ribovics is another one of those guys where you're going to get a representative effort every time. And even if he ends up getting tuned up, he's going to be in the fight. He's one of those dudes that has the ability to, hey, he might get his ass kicked in the first round, but find a way to leg it out and at least get to a decision. And that's what I can respect about that guy. That's another one of those dudes that I'm with you. I really like watching him fight.
Kevin Holland, Randy Brown, fascinating matchup. You can be sure I think that fight's going to be contested on the feet. And, I just think physically a very interesting matchup there. One I would probably lay off in the sports book. But any leans, I mean, it's hard for me. I love Jiri Prochazka. It's hard for me to see Carlos Ulberg getting through that test.
I'm torn on that, because I do like Jiri Prochazka, even though he is a tad askew sometimes. I don't know. There's something about Ulberg that makes me think he's going to be more than competitive in this fight.
And the betting line would suggest that you are accurate. Cody absolutely loves Curtis Blades minus 130. What's that line there, Cody? Let's take a peek at that. Again, yeah. Oh, geez. I like that quite a bit. Gresh, you agree with Cody? I'm surprised that's minus 130. What are we missing there?
On Curtis Blades?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, Hogan's got some steam maybe, but I don't know. Curtis Blades. You know what it is? I'll tell you what it is with Blades. When like, the record isn't perfect, but look at who that guy has fought.
Yes.
Like, that's why he's a favorite, I think, in part because of reputation, and look who he's been in there with. He hasn't won every fight. He's been beat, but he's been beat by some good fighters.
Yep.
Like, I might be dead wrong, but I don't think Curtis Blades has like a loss to a real J-Bron.
Yeah, I agree. And look at
Aspinall, Pavlovich, who is that?
Derek Lewis, Rosenstrike.
Oh, Derek
A lot
Lewis.
of guys,
Yeah. So
ADS.
he's losing. Yeah, that like the people that he's losing to are either championship contenders or former champions. Ngannou, there's another guy.
Yep.
So I think when we look at Blades, it's like, boy, why isn't he broken through? And it's like, well, he's lost to the best of the best.
All right. So I don't remember what we gave out last week, if we gave out a specific play, right? But we're going to do a segment at the end of the show called Read the Green, presented by Low Score Golf. I don't think we gave something out.
We didn't.
But I think we should each give a winner. Cody, you're welcome to participate if we want to make a 3-leg parlay. I think we should look at this UFC 327 fight card because I think it's a good place to start from. And I think we put together a 3-team parlay for the folks. Read the Green, presented by our friends at Low Score Golf.
I love it. Cody,
if you don't mind, put these up. Let's start at the preliminary bouts. I'm going to look at Tatiana Suarez. That may be prohibitive as a parlay piece. Check that box on Tatiana Suarez minus 155. That's my leg. I just ultimately think that she has more to prove and still seeks a championship. So I love Tatiana Suarez there. I'm sure Cody agrees.
I'm gonna go with Nate the Train in the Cubs.
That's the fight I forgot to mention.
Nate the Train is minus 122. Cubs Swanson hanging it up. I mean, I don't want to say led. I think he's a behind the scenes UFC legend. Does that make sense?
Yes, perfectly put. And I love the Train in the parlay, Gresh. Yes, I'm with you there. If forced to choose. Yeah, I like that. See, I just fascinating fights. That moves the needle for me. Swanson, Nate the Train, that moves the needle for me.
Right. Does Cub get a win on the way out the door, or everybody loves Nate the Train? And Nate the Train's only minus 122, Jay. So
I like the Train.
Yeah,
he went up to my brother at one point before like a ceremonial weigh-in, and he was like, "Hey, don't say Landwehr. It's Nate the Train."
Nate the Train. Yeah.
Cody, do you have a leg?
Yeah, fellas. I mean, I know I talked about Curtis Blades, but I got to put in Dominic Reyes here. I mean, Dominic Reyes against Johnny Walker, who's one of the highest variability fighters out there. You never know what you're going to get with him. Not very high fight IQ most often. Dominic Reyes has looked like the guy of old, the guy who once fought for a title, the guy who was really chasing up the light heavyweight rankings. So I really like the momentum here for Reyes, and I think that the minus 130 price is probably going to blow up, similar to that Blades price. So throw that in there with the parlay.
Yeah, it's interesting. And one thing I will say, right? I don't bet MMA, but what I will say is if I were an MMA gambler, I really would pay very close attention to certain line movements, right? I thought Tabitha Ricci was going to beat Virna Jandiroba last weekend, right? And gosh, Virna was better everywhere. The one piece I missed was simply the tail of the tape in terms of Virna, her size. She was just physically too much for Tabitha Ricci. But there was some movement where Ricci was a favorite, and a lot of movement came in midweek on Virna Jandiroba. And to me, eyeing when that sharp money is coming in, there are a lot of pick'em fights on this card. And when one or some of them move, right, more often than not, where there's smoke, there is fire. So I would pay attention to some of these line movements here. Now it can go the other way. Like Ethan Ewan, who I liked quite a bit, that line was minus 150 or so, came closer to even money as the fight got closer. So it isn't always going to work, but anyway, look for spots on that.
No, but to your point, Jay, I also think we have picked 3 fights here where it's not an overwhelming favorite, to where a little bit of money or the right kind of money could end up moving the number a little bit, to where if you're with us and you like these fighters who are skinny favorites, hey, listen, if you can get Nate the Train at minus 110, you're shaving it down from 122. I mean, that all that matters. Jay's point is a really good one. And it's normally midweek if somebody is going to do something or it's going to move, or if it goes the other way and we get like the red flag raising type line movements as well. That starts to kind of build up Wednesday, Thursday, all that. So yeah, baby, I love that parlay. I'm gonna bet that one myself. That is pretty good. I like it when we put our heads together.
Well, I'm going to go look up some flights to Newark. But but it was fun today.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh, that'd be amazing. We're
Well, now
getting
that
there.
I know you're there,
We're getting there. I think like afternoon of because I'll have to do some work on that Saturday. We're figuring that out. I might
afternoon of. Now we've moved back to 57% likelihood, right? Because
well,
you're telling me I don't get to see you Thursday, Friday. No, I get it.
Well, but I have to figure out my Saturday show on Sirius. Am I just taking that off, or am I going to go into the city and do it?
Yeah,
and then
we'll do it live from your hotel room. I'll bring a headset.
And then take the train back over, and yeah, there we go. Yeah. Well,
and maybe this is a sign that you got to bet on Nate the Train this weekend to pay for your train to Newark.
That's funny.
Maybe ride with the train this weekend. It's just an omen.
Ride with the train. There you go. Take the flight to Peterborough. Get out of here, Cody. Peterborough, for crying out loud. No way. All right, that is it for us. Hey, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube at The Real Gresh on YouTube, and then you can subscribe, set the notifications, so when Jay and I go live each and every Monday, you are in the loop and you know. Prediction: will the Red Sox be a game under 500 when we do this show next week?
So to your point, right, about them needing to go 6-3, right? I don't know. No, under. No.
Very good. Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Because in my role of interim Red Sox GM, I have to take polls and stuff like that.
I didn't get on the roller coaster. I'm standing in line carrying the purses.
I love it. That's very good. That's a step forward. At Cody_Merrow on Twitter, follow our guy Bone. And thanks, of course, to Low Score Golf. And I can tell you this, Low Score Golf, they got big sizes. They know what they're doing over there. I can attest for you largos, if you're worried that like it's going to come up short and like the bottom part of your gooter is going to be hanging out or that it isn't wide enough or long enough. I'm telling you, they got the big sizes. So if you need something size largo, Low Score Golf can take care of you. All right, for Jay, I am Gresh. We will see you next week here on Gas.